Okay then, here we go. It's time for episode 2, and as you can see by those opening shots, I have been working very hard on this recreation. A lot of track work has actually changed since the last episode, and you may not notice it just yet because, I mean, there are only small tweaks, I guess, but yeah, there's been a lot of track moving in order to fit all of the path work that you can see in front of you in. This was the bit I was dreading the most, actually, the path work, because not only does the coaster have to intersect with itself a million times over, but the pathways have to fit all the way through the center of there too, which is just crazy to even think about. But we got there in the end, and it's looking just about okay, so that's cool. And as you can see, some of the rocks have begun going in, and you can see here the start of the time lapse when I just very much started the first bit of rock work. Now there's a lot of rocks that are, I guess, hand placed, and then once I'd made like little clusters of rock, so you can see here I'm putting like individual ones down to make a nice looking little cluster, and then I'll highlight that cluster and move that big duplicate next to itself and over, and then make a new little cluster. Because, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of the rocks are very similar looking. So once I'd made a shape that looks about right, so here I'm starting to angle the rocks to face outwards, I'd make a new cluster to start angling the rocks and then duplicate that over and over, and that's how we get a larger rock face wall coming together. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result so far. The rocks are looking quite nice. Those mythological marble pieces are absolutely carrying this project with regards to the rock work, that's for sure. But yeah, here you can see just duplicating those massive chunks round. And the thing is with the rock work in Klugheim is that it sort of flows. So they do some angle more and some are more vertical, but they all sort of flow in this sort of very satisfying way. And obviously I have reference images up on my other monitor whilst I'm building all of this, so I'm trying to follow that flow as closely as possible. And here is the start of I believe it's a dragon's head rock work, where the speed overbank here sort of goes through it. But the main, it's not the main purpose of it, I guess, but this actually hides a support beam. There's a support beam that comes through the mouth of this rockwork piece, and I'll have to custom support that later on. But yes, here is the start of that. I didn't finish this, I just wanted to get a sort of starter feel of that going in, and that moves later on, because as with everything in this project, things get built and then shuffled and moved. Everything, the more things that go in, the more pathways that go in, the more it sort of like locks things into place, but you know, they have to be moved, and then it's like, okay, now I'm certain that's in the right place, because if the path comes through here and that track piece comes through there, then that could only go there. And then yeah, I've literally chosen the world's most complicated roller coaster to recreate here. So yeah, there's a lot of redoing things. I can't even tell you the amount of times that I've taken track away and rebuilt it. But yeah, even later in the time lapses, you're going to see me re-edit track that I'd built before, and then edit it again, and then look, there you go, editing track again there. So this is what I mean, it's just constantly editing and moving the track, and the track isn't the hardest part by any means. The longest part of this project is going to be building Klugheim, which is clearly what you can see what I've started on here. And again, just making these large clusters of rock. Now, since the last episode, I have in fact moved quite a lot of the layout downwards, because a lot of it was too high up, especially like some of the turnaround sections over the station and the trimmed airtime hills towards the end of the ride. Those were just too high up, so I've lowered those down, and it's made the whole layout look way more tangled, and I guess more Taron, because Taron is just a tangled mess. But as you can see here, everything looks a lot lower and a lot closer together, which is exactly what we want. That is what Taron looks like. And here we go. We can see the start of the pathways going in, and I thought I'd start up here because maybe this would be the easiest bit to start on. The most challenging bit, actually, I didn't have the time-lapse running, I don't think, but was moving everything under those 2 airtime hills to have that entrance pathway into Cloakheim weave in between all those pieces of track, and that is very, very difficult. Here you can see I'm actually, again, moving more track, because now I'm working off Google Street View as my reference. It's not an official Google Street View, but someone has made lots of 360 photospheres that you can walk around Klugheim on Google Maps, and that is my absolute saving grace with making these pathways, and probably making this entire recreation, because my god, is that handy to have, you know, having a virtual walk around of Klugheim to see where things go. And these pathways are definitely guided by that massively. Something I didn't actually know was there was a little, just what I built there, a little lookout area on the side of the bridge where you can get shots of tower. I didn't even know that existed. I genuinely had no idea that was there. But yeah, chuck that in there, obviously. Move some more track, as per, always moving track. This area down here is where the entrance of the ride is, and later on you'll see me starting to put that together. It's not entirely done, but I started making that entrance building, entrance archway, so to speak. I still at this stage have no idea how I'm going to do the Taron logo text on the entrance sign. Part of me is dreading thinking about the fact that I'm probably going to have to make that out of tiny little pieces. You know, the letters for Taron. I think that is probably going to have to be the way to do it, but I will put that off for now. There is much bigger things that need to be made in the meantime, especially getting these paths in, because once the paths are in, then I know, okay, it can function, we can have guests reach it, and scenery just can be built around it. And also, if you're thinking, what about Rake? I will build Rake, but my god, I am going to focus on Taron first, because there's just a lot to do in this project, and I'm only just realizing how big of a challenge I've brought onto myself. But it's actually coming together pretty good. In fact, better than I even anticipated. I never even anticipated recreating Taron, but here we are, and it's coming together nicely. But again, editing more track because I think I'll be editing track right up until the end of this project, to be honest. There's a high chance that there will be little bits of track being moved from time to time, because yeah, it's just about, I'm a bit of a perfectionist and it's about getting it perfect. But that being said, I have done a side-by-side POV test with the real-life POV of Taron, and I am very surprised at how accurately timed it all is, and all the turns and profiling. I surprised myself, I will admit. I'll save that for another video, but yeah, it's coming along nicely, and I look forward to sharing that with you. I'll probably do that in the next video because I won't leave it until the end of the project. But yeah, that side by side with the real POV of Taron and this, yeah, I was surprised how close even the speeds were and stuff. I was pretty happy with how that came out. Again, editing more of the track. This part of track over here, funnily enough, that you just saw me editing a second ago, I keep coming back to again and again because I feel like I'm not getting the speeds right through it. So I want to make sure that I nail those speeds through there. So one thing that everyone's been saying to me, and even in my head I've been thinking, is that it's so much rock work to do. How are you going to do all this rock work? And the thing that I've realised after looking at more and more photos and videos of Taron is that there's not as much rock work as you might think. The main bulk of the rock work is at either end, you know, the left end, which I've already started on, and this far end that's now closest to the camera. And so basically either end of the launch track, and up comes Google Earth to check the pathing is right. There you go. But yeah, there's rock work only at really in its main bulk at either end of the launch straights, and that gives you that illusion that the whole area is surrounded by rock, but it really isn't. So that's relieving, at least. You know, I don't have to make too much rock work. I mean, it's still a lot of rock work, but it's not too much. You can see I'm lowering the station and the first launch down a touch there because they were just too high in comparison to other things, just slightly too high, but I had to do a lot of track adjustment along there. Now, in the last episode, one thing that I said was that Frontier are almost guaranteed to release a Intermin Blitz DLC anytime soon. It's bound to happen. But one thing that was pointed out to me is that it will probably have the new style track like Velocicoaster has, and Taron, being an older model Intermin, has this older track, so that's not a problem. This part of the path was a bit challenging because it's the only one that's sort of sloped, and I left it to last. As you can see, I didn't even do it then. I thought, nope, that's too difficult, and left it. So I went and made a staircase. Why not? I will come back to that probably just after this, I reckon. I can't even remember. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of parts of this project that I'm like, oh, I'll do that later. It's a big project to do, isn't it? So, but as you can see, here we go. I'm just gonna place this bit of path slightly lower down and then make that slope upwards and use the edit tool. My God, is the path edit tool the most godly feature of this new game? It just allows you to just make all these lovely shapes which weren't even slightly possible in the first game. Even though here it's going a bit weird. There you go. And for the most part, that's a lot of the path work in for the whole land. So actually, when you look at it like this, with only the paths there, it's not a lot of path, is there? But then again, you don't need to walk anywhere else. That is the main gist of it. And up here, obviously, you've got the entrance closest to River Quest, which is where I'll obviously cut off the recreation. I'm only doing Clug High. I'm not doing the whole of Phantasialand. Maybe later, who knows? But not. No. That's too much. That's too much. Here we go then. Starting on the first building, and that building is the entrance. That is the entrance to the queue line for Taron, and it's, you know, it's not exact to real life. I did have reference photos up on the other monitor whilst building this, and I don't think it's an exact copy. I think it's probably as close as I could do with the parts available, maybe. Actually, no, that's not true. But, you know, maybe I'll come back and refine it later. Who knows? there is a funny part in a second where I believe I just tried to put some text on there, and yeah, none of it works. I'm not using any of the in-game fonts to try and do a Taron logo text, because they're just not going to be the right fonts, are they? So like I said earlier, I think I'm going to have to make the Taron logo by hand, which you know what I said just now about putting things off that I don't want to do yet? Yeah, I'll put that off until later on, but there we go. But yeah, it looks nice, this little entrance structure. Yeah, there you go, Zealot Pado, that's the name of the ride. No, Taron, yeah, none of those fonts work, get rid of it. We'll have to make that custom, sadly, but we'll figure that out when we come to it. The other thing that's tough is normally when you make a logo with lots of little bits, you could maybe sink it into a wall so you don't see all the sort of gubbins behind it, but this structure is just wood and has nothing behind it. You're not sinking it into a wall or anything, so that's what's going to be tough about building a logo against essentially nothing. That's the hard part. I had no idea that the entrance building to the queue line was so tall. It has this massive sort of spire tower thing on top of it, and I guess maybe I'd never looked up. I've been to Phantasialand a number of times and been on Taron loads of times, and I'd never noticed that. So there we go, that's really strange, and it has all these weird shapes coming off it. Like here I'm making this sort of arched roof, which I'd never noticed. Again, like that some of the buildings in this land are gonna clearly be quite a challenge, I guess, but hey ho, we'll get it done, I guess. It's gonna be a long project, but to be fair, I'm surprised at how much I've done in the time frame that I've done it already. So maybe it won't take as long as we think. Who knows? We can only build it and see how long it takes, right? But yes, you can see I'm starting on that second launch tunnel now, and it's pretty simple structure, to be honest. It's just got some like circular logs and some beams, and that's about it, to be honest. That's the whole structure. God, that's a riveting voiceover segment there, but it's true. It is just it's just logs and beams all the way down. It's not that crazy a structure. But one thing that you could probably just about see from that is the fact that the beams are too close for clearance. You know, if you stuck your hands up, you would hit your hands on those beams currently, and that's the problem. So I do lower the second launch down so the riders have a bit more clearance, and also just about to do a little bit more terrain painting here, just to make it feel a little bit more complete and like more work has been done. And to be fair, I feel like I have actually made a lot more progress, and it's amazing how much a little bit of terrain painting does to make it feel even more complete. Something else I had done since the last episode is I added slightly more detail to the trains, as I've bulked up the seat back slightly and, you know, made them look a bit more boxy and a bit more intimate. So I don't think there's many elements of the train now that look Mac. I think most of the train looks pretty intimate. The only thing that I can't change is the shape of the seats around your shoulders, which, you know, the Macs have like pointy bits of the seat where your shoulders are, and the Intamin trains don't have that. So there we go. that is the progress of the Taron build at this stage, and I'm very happy with how it's looking. Please let me know what you think of everything so far, and if you have any suggestions, chuck them in the comments section, as I absolutely loved reading all your comments from the first episode. Until the next one, thanks for watching.